tuned in to All Things Music, presented by Liquid Sound Records. Here are your hosts, Ryan Katz and Ian Illyrian.
What is up? Welcome to the All Things Music podcast. I am your host, Ryan, with Ian, and a good friend of ours who has been on the podcast before, but can you believe it's been 3 years? This is Dan Janssen, owner of Inkcarceration Festival. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's been so long. It hasn't seemed like that long, but in the amount of time alone that we had you on, and I want to say it was either the COVID year or post right after that, the festival has grown monumentally just since those years, and it's been amazing to watch as a fan, and now luckily as somebody who is somewhat involved, and that's kind of where I want to start. I do not know how to articulate my involvement, and I just kind of want you to explain to people what I've been doing with you and just in general what we've been doing together.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people when don't understand, like when you're booking 66 bands, there's a lot of research, a lot of curation. I mean, we don't just book bands on a whim for Ink. I mean, it's not like
despite the comments.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of research that's done on their box office sales, on their popularity at the moment. You know, every band has different waves of popularity. Spotify playlists, and I, you know, one thing that you've helped me with, obviously, especially the last year here, was a lot of the research and curation of our like lower mid-card bands, right? Like a lot of those acts, especially this year when we were expanding on stage 3, you know, certain bands that I wasn't looking at, right? Like 1056 was a great example.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have thought to book them. So Ryan sends me a spreadsheet. This guy literally is like, I want to help you do some research on the acts, whatever else. And I'm thinking he's just going to send me a list of bands. So Ryan goes out and he makes me a spreadsheet with like a column for Spotify plays, for monthly listeners, for all, you know, and it's like literally like a list of like 40, 50 bands. I think it's somewhere around that realm.
Around there, yeah.
Of course, Killstreak was on there too at the bottom. You had to slip that one in there. No, but you know, so that was very helpful. And we ended up getting out of all the, I mean, you know, obviously things, you know, whether a band is touring, whether they're available, has a lot to play into it.
Of course.
But we ended up getting like 8 of those bands, which is a huge deal because, you know, obviously people are always hit me up, book this band, book that band. And I really appreciated all the research that you put into it in the time because it was very helpful.
Sure, that's the thing.
That's something that you know, we need that, and it's just something that behind the scenes goes unnoticed sometimes. So definitely want to thank you for that.
Well, yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. And it's something that I've been going to. Let's just shout out DWP, the best festival promoters out there. Like, legitimately, I am not, you know, brown-nosing anybody. That's just the truth. If you've gone to other rock festivals especially, and you go to DWP, you can see a vast difference in the operations. You can see a vast difference in the talent curation, talent buying, all those things.
You've been to a few, and you've been backstage at a few.
We've been to a lot at this point, Ryan and I. We did Louder Than Life. We've done Inkcarceration.
Right.
Now, how many? 4, 5?
A lot.
Been a while.
It's all blur
now.
anymore. I don't even know the years. But I can tell you, and I don't know if DWP was in charge then. They might have been. But my first was 2010 Rock on the Range. It wasn't even Sonic Temple. It was Rock on the Range way back then. And since then, you know, I had gone to Mayhem Festival. I had gone to Warp Tour, Sounds of the Underground. I mean, festivals to me are much more fun than your tours because of, I mean, there's so many reasons. I just love outdoor music in general, but and you see all of those, you see how well they're ran, but then you go to DWP, it's like riding a bike. Every single you're gonna have your rain delays, you're gonna have your, you know, long lines. You're going to have people complaining about how much tots cost. You're going to have all of those things.
I love the tots.
Yes.
The tots have become, we've owned it as Inkcarceration. Tots belong to Ink, and I love that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think that's a good thing. So
yeah.
That tot vendor next year is going to have the best weekend of any vendor, I think, at Inkcarceration.
If you're watching this, whoever you are, you know, just buy the Ferrari. Don't worry about it later. You know, you're going to kill it. But what's so cool about that is when I first met you, you know, I didn't really have an intention of being like, my ulterior motive is to meet Dan and eventually like help him out. I was just in awe of somebody who put together something so great. But in the back of my mind, ever since I've been going to festivals, I have always been like, what can I do as just a normal person to affect the lineups? Because as we know, with rock in general, the older bands are just getting older, and we're sitting here going, who is going to replace them? Who is going to be the next headliners, the future generations?
Right.
And if the talent buyers or whomever it is aren't acutely aware of the brand new people in the scene, and we're not talking about like people who are playing for 100 people. We're talking about like these are big bands on the undercard that normally would be, you know, headliners or second tier on tours. They're not huge tours, but tours nonetheless. Those are the bands. Those are the Bad Omens, the Spirit Box, the Sleep Token. Those bands, Ian and I went to see, or we have interviewed Alicia Taylor in Cherry Bombs 2 years ago, and Sleep Token was one of the supporting acts. I think the opener or the headliner was Nothing More, I want to say, but Sleep Token.
This is when they were rather new too,
right? I'm newish, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and now they're selling out Wembley and doing insane things. So that's to find those next bands. You have to start at the bottom, at the undercard, at the whatever you call it, and I feel like even my part is small. I'm still trying my very best to take the best bands of that world and hopefully elevating them in the future to the next step.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the people that decide who the headliners are the fans. At the end of the day, I mean, we have to, it's based on to headline a festival. You obviously have to have strong box office. You've got to have numbers. You've got to have all that stuff that's there that's saying, hey, like this band is rising up the charts. They're rising, and we get those reports. The industry buzzes, behind the scenes on certain bands. Bad Omens was a great example this year. They are direct support to Shinedown, at Ink main stage, and that band, the first time we had them was our first year was 2018,
right?
And they were, opening main stage. They opened the whole festival, actually, I believe. I think they were the first band out the gate. And just to see that growth over those, 6-7 years now to, they're headlining Upheaval. I mean, they're in that.
Oh, and I could certainly see them headline Inkcarceration perhaps in the next 3 to 5 years, if not sooner.
Absolutely.
So
I think there's a few bands out there that are really, it's kind of an open. I would say an open market for who are the next bands going to be. For years you've had all these bands, but you're right. At some point those bands are going to retire,
right?
And then inevitably come out of retirement a couple years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or like Slayer, just take a
couple years off.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, I think in my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion. I go to a lot of concerts. I'm a fan of these bands. I see bands like Gojira.
We see you at a lot of them.
You see me at a lot of. Yeah, I know. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah, I saw you guys at Gojira. I think.
Yep, we sure did.
You did.
So yeah, that's one band. I think Falling in Reverse is obviously they're a band taking that step. I mean, every song that they put out is just been going to number one. I mean, every single one for the last 4.
And that's the game now. Singles.
Singles do it. And that band has such a good marketing. They just do so many things right in the industry, and I just give them a lot of props because you've seen that band grow exponentially from in the last couple of years.
Do you think their recent when this comes out we might know the answer. Ronnie's Twitter account is gone. Mm-hmm. Their website is now a 404 forbidden website, and all their socials are the thing, and I will say this on the record for me, bands right now, their thing when they're releasing something is to wipe their socials, and it's this anticipatory sort of tactic of oh, why did they wipe their socials? And then it's announcing a tour or a new release or whatever. I personally can't stand that because it's so overdone, and we all know what it is. None of us are oh, they were hacked and now they don't have stuff, So this one's a little different. In the fact that Ronnie's account doesn't exist anymore. So I'm wondering, the whole scene is did he, because let's be honest, Ronnie is an opinionated person. Whether you agree with him or not is not for here. But did one of his opinions go too far for Elon or whoever runs the Twitter, the X, and get rid of it? Or are they doing something? I'm curious of what that's going to be.
Well, and you got to think about him specifically. He's not, I mean, he has a big social media presence. He's almost more of a influencer now than even a artist in the musical sense. I mean, he has something like, 6 million
And what he does is he
or
doesn't
some
do what
shit.
normal bands, and you got to walk the line. I try to do my best job of that. Normal bands, they post from their accounts, but they don't make it too informal, right?
Yeah.
And what he does is, especially Ronnie, not that you're watching, but it'd be great if you were. He sometimes likes to respond to everybody. Let's put it that way. So when you do that a lot, you got enough stuff out there, you might say the wrong thing here or there and piss off the people at X, and then your account's gone. But my suspicion is that
you just as long as you don't care.
Yeah,
It
doesn't
can't
matter,
hurt you.
right?
You know what I'm saying? That's and like I said, I mean, for everybody that talks about that band and him, like he's doing something right. Clearly.
Oh, they're selling out giant ballrooms,
and it's amazing. And I listen to the music. I'm a fan. You know, I love it. Every single they put out. I mean, I jam them. So like, you know, it's something that's pretty cool. But yeah, to answer your question though, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I didn't even know. I didn't. Yeah.
But on that note, and I try to really say this: the internet is a place where people love to get outraged on all sides. Let's be clear here, and I'm not on either of those, and that's always a problem. But there is as a fan. And I hope some people take this to heart. But as a fan, there is such thing as removing the artist from the art. Obviously, there are lines that we all draw. If one of my favorite artists turned out to be a neo-Nazi, I think I'd probably stop listening to him or her. But if somebody says something I don't agree with, if it's not PC or what have you, it's not going to be like I got to remove them from my playlist or I'm not going to go see them live anymore. Yeah, of course we're all humans, so we're judgmental people. But I don't think there's enough of that going around. I don't think there's enough of people saying, "Okay, the music's actually good. It fucks. It's really good." But yeah, I don't like what he said on Instagram this one day, so I'm not going to listen to him anymore. I think we got to get rid of that.
Yeah, I agree. I could care less what anybody says. If the music is good, I listen to it. You know what I mean? Like, and I listen to everything. So I don't really have an opinion on it personally. I mean, I know.
What's some other stuff you listen to other than rock?
Oh,
Just
goodness.
You said you listen
I don't
to
think
everything.
it's any secret.
He's about to say Kanye.
Yeah.
Well,
I like
we
some
gotta
old
hear from the
Kanye.
man
I
himself.
do like some old Kanye.
Old is good, yes.
Notice he said old.
Yeah. I just couldn't tell you the new stuff. Ever since I started doing Inkcarceration, it's almost like I've just narrowed down all of my time listening to music to rock and metal.
But you
gotta
have an escape.
Rock.
We all.
I mean,
do.
I don't think it's any secret. I'm a '90s dude. Like I grew up listening to Third Eye Blind, Oasis, Bush, Our Lady Peace. You know, those were all.
And
my
I think
bands.
if you look at the bill this year, some of those like Stabbing Westward. Who were the other ones?
Stabbing
Trust
Westward's on there.
Company,
Filter's on there.
Filter.
Oh yeah, Filter, man.
So yeah, I mean, I like to sprinkle those in every once in a while. Why not? You know,
Yeah.
and I think that there's such a market for those bands, especially some of the nostalgia acts, as we saw with, when we were young. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, lucky for Inkcarceration fans, they'll get more than a 15-minute set at noon. So
True.
So at Inkcarceration,
Throwing shade.
yeah, well,
I don't think Live Nation cares if we throw.
I don't think they care. I don't think they care. I don't think anybody's gonna. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna be watching this at all.
No.
But regardless, I don't really care. So yeah, I think having those bands in the mix is something that we've always done at Ink. If you remember back in 2018, we had Our Lady Peace, we had Living Color, we had so. I think that's good. I mean, people love the nostalgia. I call them nostalgia acts.
My term for them was sing-along bands.
That is your term. Yeah,
That's
you're
my
like
term.
sing-along
I mean,
bands.
it's like when you go to a wedding, and the DJ can play like some new school hip hop, some stuff that people can really
You should
get
be talking
into.
to me right now.
But what's
considering
that?
I just played a couple weddings
There
this
you
year.
go.
But, hey.
But then you
Did you do any Journey though? That's the question.
Hell no, that's on my
You
do
don't
not
stop
play.
believing.
No, that's on my do not to play list. I got a couple bands on there. That's one of them.
But like if you were, and this is a really good a testament to the balance that you need. If you were a DJ at a wedding and you only played the hits of 2023, like all the hip hop hits and stuff. Sure, it would pop off for the young people, but that's not who's at a wedding, right? It's all generations at a wedding. So you got to play your YMCA. You got to play some of the line dances, the disco stuff.
What's that one? The cha-cha slide?
Shot. You got to do shots.
All that.
The shots.
Yeah.
Cha-cha slide. Then you got the one that goes to the left. Or wait, is that the cha-cha? I don't know.
You got to hit the boomers. You got to hit Gen X. You got to hit millennials. You got to hit Gen Z, and then Gen A is going to be right behind them.
I'm from the country in Ohio, man. They always had to do the electric slide.
Yes.
That was
the electric slide.
That's still going.
The boogaloo
But I guess
slide.
my point is that is actually a really good comparison to curating a festival, because if you've been, now Dan is very proud of this fact, and I will say it, that Inkcarceration has the youngest audience of any DWP festival. Is that still correct?
I don't know if it's still correct. I know it was at one point, yeah.
We'll just say,
I mean,
for
what
right
other
now,
festival would
correct.
it be? Because Incarceration definitely has the more younger appeal bands, I guess.
Yeah, we have a mixture, and I think that's important. And you have to. The hardest thing with booking these lineups is obviously if you book too much metal, then the rock fans aren't interested.
Yeah,
and
the old people, they're like,
and you book the rock fans, and then you get all the it's not heavy enough.
Yeah.
Which this year's lineup, if you Ryan, you did a great job, by the way, breaking down a picture with the different genres of incarceration.
Yeah,
and it is
I
by
have
far,
too much time on my hands. Let's be very clear here, people.
It is by far the heaviest year we've ever had.
It is,
like, by far. But we also, I think just because you've got to shine down and you've got these, these bands on the top part, that people are like, oh, they're not rock, or they're not metal or whatever.
Right.
It just all comes down to what you like. I mean, we try to do our best to tap into each
generation,
each generation,
right, exactly.
each audience. There's so many subgenres of music. We even had some punk this year with like Dropkick Murphys and Offspring, if you consider them punk. Which
I mean, I would.
Yeah,
I would.
I didn't label them that because I wanted a group. More together.
I've always thought them as alt rock, alt punk.
It's sort of there.
Yeah.
And full disclaimer: if you're watching this for the first time, I consider myself the genre police. I literally have a T-shirt that says genre police with a little badge on it because I'm that corny. And here's my take on genres real quick as a little sidebar here. People, I see this all the time because I don't gatekeep genres, and I'll explain why. People don't like genres. It can be confusing. It can be like learning a video
the 26 sub-metal genres.
There's like a bazillion. Yeah, and there's more every year. My thing about genres is this. Like cultures, they exist so that not you're like, you can't like technical brutal death metal, you can only like brutal technical death metal. Like, that's not the point. The point is to appreciate what comes from each subgenre, what makes that subgenre. There's certain things that from somebody who has a good listening ear can be like, okay, that's deathcore because this. I appreciate that aspect of it and why it's different than metalcore or what have you. So no one would sit here and say, no one of the right mind would say, we should just get rid of all cultures because we're all human. The whole point of cultures is to appreciate the food, the dialect, the everything that comes along with each culture. I think it's the same with genres. So that's why I'm so particular with genres, because at the end of the day, I love the diversity of figuring out what is this, why is it this way, and let's celebrate the fact that it's that way.
I think a lot of that comes from probably you being a musician and being
totally
technical
does.
musician.
It's not for the layman fan.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
My mind is not where.
Yeah, most people will be like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Exactly. 100%.
Right.
I 100% realize that.
I get that, and that's what I think is interesting for a lot of, especially musicians out there. Like they do get interested in that, and I think it's great. I think it's cool.
But I think what's really neat is that when I posted that when we're referring to the group Incarceration Fan
Inmates,
Inmates, yes. I posted in there, a lot of people, actually a majority of people were like, thank you, this is going to help me now. I didn't really think of it like that because again, from my perspective, everybody knows what the genres are already.
Right.
But I forget that and I'm going to be very clear here because I want to get the ego off the table. I wish that I could view music that way, where everything is just metal, or everything is just rock, or everything is just EDM, everything is just hip-hop, without thinking about the little niches, because once you do, you can't escape that rabbit hole. You're there. And I think when you think of things like everything is metal, then you just appreciate what you like and what you don't like, not putting things into the tribal areas. So Wish I could be like that, but no, I'm not. But it was cool that people were like, "Oh, that's helpful," because you see bands on a bill, and for your casual, and I say casual in an endearing way, not a derogatory way, but your casual festival goer, when they see a lineup, obviously the first thing they look at is the headliners. That's
right, yeah.
why they're headliners. And then they look at the down bill, and then they look at the undercard. And when you see those things, a lot of these bands are newer, relatively, in the rock world, and they don't know who they are, what they sound like. And when they figure out, okay, I don't know what this band is, but they're labeled avant-garde or they're labeled alternative, I might like them. I'm going to go check them out now. So that was a nice little benefit of doing that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cool. I thought it was great. It was good. I mean, it's just good good information, and you're right. It gives people, they can look at that list and say, okay, I'm gonna check this band out or that band or whatever else. Because I think the one thing about Ink's lineup this year is that a lot of the undercard it's expanded a ton. I mean, we really are a deep lineup this year.
A lot of bigger undercard too. Like, not that it was bad last year or the year before.
No,
because I love.
It's just about expanding and about trying to get bigger and trying to, we have a stage 3, so that stage it's going to be a bigger stage this year.
Did we determine that for sure?
Yes. Okay. Yes. It's going to be a bigger stage.
Still waiting to get those figures from production.
It's going to be a minute. Yeah.
That's all good.
But yeah, they'll. It's going to be a bigger stage, and that was one of the main goals. Ink is just we're it's a smaller ground. It's we can't put in 4 or 5 stages.
Yeah.
We can't have all that. Now, and the benefit of that is obviously there's not overlap. Obviously, there's some overlap on stage 3, but it's very minimal, right? So you're not really having to pick and choose what bands you want to see. For the most part, stage 1 and 2 just go back and forth. You know what I mean? And stage 3 runs in between those two. So, like, if someone wants to catch a few songs on stage 2, the good thing about Ink is the site is very condensed. So you can run right over to stage 3, get right back to stage 1, grab some
tots,
your
exercise that weekend.
Get some tots 100%. On the way, and you're not running a mile back and forth between stages.
No.
So that's a good thing.
Let's address that, because that was some of the questions I saw in the group. Is some people really wanted that dual headlining stage back, and then they wanted. What
some people want it.
Some people. I would say not a majority, but some people.
Based on our surveys that we've done, after 22, and the majority do not like that.
Yeah. So we will see this current setup be
separated stages. Yeah, I think I think what we have right now. I mean, I can't predict all the years in the future, right?
Sure.
But the setup we had last year, 21 last year and this year, 2 things. Number one, it allows us to have a bigger main stage, significantly bigger main stage. So when you have the 2 side by sides, they have to be smaller because the site's smaller.
And people might say, why does that matter if it's bigger? It's already big.
Oh,
but
it matters.
It matters for sound, lighting,
production
and
quality.
People also forget that a lot of these headlining bands come with props.
Yeah.
I mean, giant things. For me, it'll always be the Slipknot backdrop is so impressive. When you have 9 people, you kind of have to
you
do
can't
that.
like we wouldn't be able to book Slipknot on a stage from 22 because it's too small.
Exactly.
So like, a lot of the bigger bands require the larger stage, which they bring a lot of production with them. So you get a better show from a production standpoint with lights and the backdrops and all that stuff. So that's one big reason for me personally as a fan. I would rather have one main stage. I mean, it's not like stage 2 is a mile down the road. It's 200 feet away.
Right.
Like literally 200 feet.
And folks, if you do buy VIP, you do have an easier way to get there.
You'd have an easier way to get there, exactly. And that was the other problem, is that when we had the double stages, VIP had a hard time seeing one of the the other stage.
I remember that.
So that wasn't fair to those patrons, and on top of that, it's a little crammed in there. And from a safety aspect, it gets a little crushed in there with those 2 stages. So at other festivals that they have the 2 stages, there's a bit more room. I mean, there's a lot more. I should say a bit more room. There's a lot more room. Like Louder Than Life.
Oh,
has 2 side by
that's
sides.
the most giant plot of land they have for that sort of thing.
So I think for Ink, because the stages are so close together anyway, it just for that reason, it feels like this is the best way and the most positive feedback we've had is from that.
I would agree.
So.
And let's talk about something that when we're discussing the next year that we always like to talk about, and that is the differentiation of Inkcarceration to other DWP festivals in regards to the lineup.
Right.
Because of the resurrection of Sonic Temple, Louder Than Life's right there. As they put in the Son Inc. Pass, Ohio is for rockers, right?
It absolutely is.
And so when you have that, you're going to have an overlap of fans. You're going to have people from Columbus coming to Inc. You're going to have people from Cleveland coming to Inc. You're going to have people from Columbus going to Sonic Temple and Louder Than Life. You're going to have all of that. So the goal from a talent perspective is how can we get the same people going to Sonic Temple or even Louder Than Life to come to Inkcarceration? Obviously, there's a few advantages. Ticket prices are cheaper, relatively.
Yes, oh yeah.
And the bill, if you've seen the last couple of years, has been dramatically different than, some of these other DWP festivals do more lineup sharing.
Yeah, they're becoming more similar. If you noticed this year, so at the end of the day, between Sonic and Inkcarceration, I think the goal, but the idea is that you will get to see in 7 days of 2 festivals pretty much every rock and metal band that's touring that particular year.
Pretty much, give or take.
Which is crazy.
So, there are differences between the fest, but it comes down to preference, right, for people that go. And to answer the one question, we do share quite an audience. And we have the Sonic Pass. There are several thousand people that go to both festivals. But the one thing with Ink is it's half the capacity. They've got a stadium, we've got an old prison. So obviously, this wasn't
different.
This wasn't a venue. Like we made it into a venue, and so there's obviously we can't bring in more than 25,000 people per day. So that does limit what we can do as far as budget goes. I mean, most of our festivals, obviously, as I should say, people know, because most people don't know, we work on razor-thin budgets. I mean, they are razor-thin. The only other option is to raise ticket prices, which, I have a hard time doing. I mean,
that's what a lot of people are saying. I want a 4th stage. I want 4 days. We
can add 4 or 5 stages, but you're still only going to see the same amount
of
bands
Or you could go
per
Thursday,
day.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but you're probably going to have to raise ticket prices that way as well.
Correct, yeah. Anything you add to the festival, you're going to have to raise prices. With inflation happening right now, I mean, there's just a lot going on, and the cost of, the artist guarantees, that goes up due to inflation. They've got crews that they've got to pay. They've got, gas and staffing and shipping and all that stuff. So there's across the board, costs rise, and we've done everything we could, and I've fought hard for it. I mean, this is something that we talk about internally, and all of us are trying to keep our costs down to keep without sacrificing anything, right?
Sure.
So the prices, if you notice across the board, we've kept. And I can't speak for all the other DWP festivals, but from what I understand, it looks like the costs are about the same. So, the price. So with Ink, we worked really hard to make sure that we weren't raising prices because people are struggling right now. We are in an economy that is not great. So, keeping Ink at a low cost.
Yeah,
it's a bridge in the summer, right? Ink is like that bridge for your festival appetite between Sonic and Louder. That's one of the main reasons Ink stays in July, is it gives something for people to do in the summer. Otherwise, you got that big break between the
big
two
old
big
gap.
festivals.
And a lot of these bands, as I have learned in particular with pitching bands to you, is so many bands tour Europe in the summer too. So you're really, kind of picking and choosing. And if you want to see the bands that tour the States, you go to Ink.
Yeah. I mean, July is a different month to throw a festival. It just is. That's why you see most other festivals are in fall and spring. July, like you said, a lot of bands are in Europe. There are a lot of big festivals over there. So in one particular year, like, you won't get certain bands in the summer festivals, but that doesn't mean the next year we're not going to have them, because if they're in Europe this summer, that probably means they're going to be at Ink next year.
Right.
That's one way to look at it. So,
and I'm not teasing anything because I know nothing.
Yeah.
But great example. Everybody and their mother was asking for a sleep token at Ink this year.
Yeah.
And we knew early on they were only going to be available in the U.S. in the spring.
Correct. Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that means not at Ink. But hopefully, that means next year or in the next 2 years, what have you, we can scratch that itch. I know a lot of people.
Oh, we're certainly going to try. I mean, I can say that right now. I mean, we don't go out of our way to not book bands that people are asking for.
Obviously.
So like the bands like, Gojira, Sleep Token, Lorna Shore, a lot of bands that people were asking for this year, we are absolutely going to try to get them next year. It comes down to a couple things. It comes down to their availability, if they're going to be in the States. If those two things fall into place, we will do everything we can to get them. Bring Me the Horizon was another one people have been asking for.
I was pushing for that one, folks.
Yeah, I definitely... They're one of those bands that I've been wanting to get at Ink for a while. So I think there's there's going to be next year is going to have a lot of options. The other thing that we ran into this year, just talking on availability of acts, was that a lot of bands weren't touring. That was the other thing. Is like a lot of bands were just off because I think what happened is after COVID, it was hurry up, right? Like everybody got back to work, and if you noticed how many tours were going on in 21, 22, and 23.
We were busy as hell during that time. I mean, we were going almost 3 or 4 shows a week doing podcast stuff, it seemed like.
Exactly. So I think what happened is everybody said, okay, just got to take a break. People want to record new albums. They want to do this. They want to do that. So, like, it was a thing. That was the thing that happened. And so it was just a little bit, it was a struggle. It was difficult this year to find acts that were just available. It's not about convincing them to play
And we're talking mainly about upper tier.
Yeah, upper tier bands. Yeah, like mid to upper bands. So, we had a lot of bands that stepped up and that were like, you know what? We want to do it.
We're like, fuck it, we'll do it. Yeah.
I mean, like I couldn't believe Parkway Drive was that because like they're in Australia.
I love Parkway Drive, man.
That was one I was like,
Parkway shirt
we were really fighting for because we really wanted to get those guys, and because everybody's been asking for them to play Ink forever. And it was kind of funny because initially they weren't able to do it because they weren't going to be in the States or whatever, and then finally I think we sent a follow up. We're like, let's just check again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't hurt.
It can't hurt, and I'm really glad we did because we were able to get those guys in there, and that was awesome. I mean, that to me was a great get this year. So I was excited about that one. But yeah, it was, booking the lineup is it takes a year. I mean, we start booking and we're already looking at ideas for 2025. I work with Dell over at DWP on all the talent buying, and him and I go back and forth and just bounce ideas, and I talk to other people like Ryan and other people in the industry that I work with and just try to get, okay, where's the thumb at on the pulse of the industry right now? Who we get? Yeah. And I think we all kind of know. We see people on Facebook all the time or on the groups. Like you see who they're asking for.
You see who they're asking for,
and you get it.
And you can't please everybody. That's the other thing.
But we'll try. We'll damn well
do
try
as hard as you can.
Like, yeah, exactly.
And I like I said, there was 9 bands that made the lineup from my list of 40 whatever, and it's I helped you last year as well, but it was more informal than this year.
Right.
And so this year was my first taste of, okay, when the lineup comes out, are people going to be hyped for the bands that I got on there, right? And mostly they were.
Taking a poll? No, I was kidding.
Right.
You could take a poll.
But it is one of those things that's so frustrating because I'm not by any means saying I put in nearly the amount of work that you and Dell do, but when I put in the work that I do, and I do it annually because there's new bands coming out all the time.
Yeah.
And then you go and do all that hard work, and then the lineup comes out, and then some people are saying, I from your perspective, just from my little perspective, I'm like, oh man, that's a bummer. Like, why are people saying it's not like? Some people are saying this isn't heavy, and I'm just like, excuse me, it's so heavy. Excuse me, what are you talking about?
People just like to be fickle sometimes. You're not going to please everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, I mean, I've been doing this for so long at this point. This is my 7th year. 6th year. Of COVID didn't happen. COVID year didn't happen.
Don't count that.
But I mean, 7 years I've been putting lineups out for Ink, and I don't. It's not that I don't listen, because I definitely listen to comments and I listen to the feedback and I take it in. I know it comes from a place of passion for the festival, and that's all it is. And fans are passionate about their bands. They're passionate about their festival, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I'll take that all day long, and I'll take that constructive criticism if there's certain bands they don't like. But then for every band that they don't like, somebody else loves that band.
And the other thing you have to do is figure out how much of the internet is real, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah,
how all these comments, all these things, do they translate to the actual crowd that actually shows up?
Right.
That's a hard thing to do. Doesn't matter how good of a marketer you are, because people are loud, and usually the loud people have the most dissenting opinions. So you can look at it that way and say, "Oh God, we fucked up."
I think it affects if they're coming or not. I don't know if it affects if anybody else is coming.
But we have to realize sometimes, no matter what you're doing, if you're a band, if you're a festival curator, anything, there are people that just simply look at what you're doing and enjoy it without talking. Or if you're a YouTuber and you make a dope video, but all the comments are negative, but you have a bunch of likes
Well, I
on
think
the video.
that's the majority of anything. I mean,
Yeah,
that
that's what I
applies
mean.
to anything. I think the majority of people who are actually paying attention to shit and people that are actually coming aren't the people that are commenting. It's always the people that, like you said, Ryan, are the loudest or just opinionated.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't like to lose anybody. So, like,
Well, of course,
if
yeah,
I
I
see
mean-
someone that says, "Oh, I don't like the lineup, I'm not coming this year," it bums me out.
Of
You know what I
course.
mean? Because
Yeah.
like I take,
it's
I
a lot
take,
of hard
like,
work.
I don't take for granted one single fan that comes to Inkcarceration at all.
Well, and you shouldn't. It's your
And
business.
So then my brain goes, okay,
People please
I gotta
mode.
win. I'm gonna win
Yep.
them back next year. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So like, so that's all. And it's about like, you know, you don't want to alienate any of your fans that put like trust and love into the festival because they care about it just as much as we do. You know what I mean? And
Well, I think that's a
where-
testament to the diversity as well. The diversity of rock is so vast that you'll never please everybody.
Right.
And I'm not trying to throw shade at
Yeah,
other
you can't.
genres, but there are country, and I like some of these genres, but country, hip hop, etc. If you book, you know, mostly groups of that specific genre, there's
Where
going to
does
be a
Jelly
lot
Roll
less
fall?
people.
Jelly Roll. That's
Yeah,
the base.
that's-
Is he
that's
country?
tough.
Is he rock? Is he rap?
God, that's
Can
such
you
a-
answer that? You're the genre guy. I was
He, well,
wondering.
he can't. He can't answer it, so I can't answer it.
I
I
gotcha.
love Jelly Roll,
know,
man.
oh, yeah, dude, I love
his
Jelly Roll.
Friendly
TikToks or
guy.
whatever he
Shout out to
does.
Cody, his drummer. So if you,
I freaking
do
love
you remember
Jelly
the
Roll.
band Siler?
Yeah, I do. Yep,
they were.
yep.
They actually played Rock on the Range way back.
Yep.
Or maybe it was Song Temple then.
Yeah.
I was close to those guys, and he was the drummer for Siler for a while, and now he's Jelly Roll's drummer doing
Oh,
world tours and shit.
amazing,
And I'm like,
dude.
whoa.
Jelly Roll's
He's a
wife,
great guy.
what's
So
her
shout
name,
out
Bunny?
Cody if you're watching
Yeah,
this.
Jelly Roll's wife, Bunny, she's awesome, man. She's funny.
Oh,
as
yeah.
hell. You ever seen her TikToks
Yep.
with him?
They have a Don't they have a podcast too, or some
I
sort of?
don't know about that. I
something.
don't not. What's funny about being on a podcast, I don't really listen to podcasts that much unless I'm with Ryan driving in the car for.
Yeah, I listen to too many.
That's what podcast. It's just three guys sitting on the couch just talking back.
It
and
is,
forth
but the
together.
problem is just like anything I do in life, I listen to other people's shit and I go, "Am I doing that as good as they are?"
We'll just edit this to make it way more interesting. That's
yes,
all, Ryan. You know
yes.
what I mean?
Just
Yeah.
next time we'll have a green screen with just crap going
I've-
on in the background.
I've got
like
one in my
Wayne's World,
closet.
like
Yes.
like now we're in Delaware.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We could do
Treadmill.
that. I got one in my closet.
I bet you.
We could get crazy, man.
What
We
you
could
doing
do
with the
some
green
live
screen?
streams. We could do all types of shit. We could take live polls.
Absolutely. So let's actually get into. There were some questions asked in the group.
Okay.
I posted something a couple days ago and asked for questions. Wasn't a lot of them, but we'll get to some of them.
The Q&A.
Q&A.
Well, we'll get to the funny one first. This one's from Zach Danner. He said, "Why are the tots so expensive, and how much are they going to cost this year?"
Yeah. That's a great question.
$6.99.
I don't know why the tots are so expensive. That's why I got in on the jokes because I don't know.
Right.
We have a company that runs our F&B stuff and I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't set the top pricing.
Yeah.
But I could definitely make fun of the top pricing. I have no
I
problem
will
doing
say
that.
I don't know anything about the tots. I never had them, but the
Although
mac and
I've
cheese
heard
was
that
fantastic.
it's a joke, and that people really do love the tots.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
it's
would-
not like it's a small amount of tots.
Tots are hard to fuck up, right?
I mean, you get a lot of them in a thing, and then they put toppings.
Let's
on
ask
them.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Get a mini pocket
Get
there.
off my tots, man. But yeah, I think that's a funny one. But yeah, I don't know the answer
Yeah.
to that. I don't want to lie to him. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's okay.
But we'll work on it.
I don't think it's a deal breaker.
I don't think it's going to be going up much this year.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also to piggyback, Gary Owens asked, "What's the markup on tots for 2024?" Man, these people just are about their tots. So John Shockey asks,
Maybe throw like a free T-shirt with the tots. and it'll
Yeah, like a
justify-
T-shirt cannon
It'll
at the
justify
top.
the pricing.
yes.
All right, fair enough.
John Shockey asks, Do you think that Ink is getting too big for Mansfield? If so, where would you like to see it go next?
No, I don't. I think we're at the size we're always going to be at.
Yeah.
I think it's not going to get any bigger.
Right.
There's no place to put anybody, right? So I think Ink is where it's going to be size-wise. We can't put it anywhere else.
That's kind of the point, right?
If you could find me another prison
the whole Incarceration.
I mean, and trust me, I've looked not to move Ink, but to add to Ink, right? Like, I mean, I've looked all over the country for other prisons in different states to branch out the brand. You know what I mean? And to put on another incarceration somewhere.
Did not know that.
And I have looked far and wide.
This is
the best spot that has. You know, we've been lucky enough in Mansfield to have all of the areas around it, right? Like we've got the infamous Orange Lot, right? Which, you know, we had to jump through hoops to get from the state of Ohio.
We remember those hoops. We were talking about them 3 years ago.
It was wild. In that lot there, like, you know, we've put so much work into that. And then, like, you've got the Green Lot, and you've got all the houses around us, and everybody in the city there and around the festival have bought in, like, right? Like, people put campers out there. They put parking in their yards. Like, I mean, it's amazing, and it's such a jolt to that economy out there.
They probably make a lot of money off doing that, you would think.
Oh, yeah, just the neighbors alone. I mean, just people around the area.
You see the people that offer parking in their yards and all that, yeah.
The economic impact that this has on Mansfield is awesome, and for me, you know, I think it's great to be able to be from Ohio, putting a festival on in Ohio, and I mean, so I don't see it going anywhere. Just for the pure fact that it's called Inkcarceration and it's at a prison.
It would be hard.
So
you would have to rebrand. You would lose the niche of it. It would just
it would just be another outdoor festival,
right?
Then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of had the allure is that big backdrop. Historic art, you know, that historic.
And there is nothing better than that backdrop.
It's amazing. People fly from all over the world to see it.
It's so funny too because when you have that massive headline stage there, it makes the prison look small.
Right,
and
which I didn't think was possible.
Yeah,
at all, right? Like, 'cause that thing is a massive prison. So
yeah, but when you go there without the festival, you're like, that thing's huge.
Right.
So from Amy Hillen, she said, Rock USA. R.I.P. sectioned off the front of the stage to the rest of general admission for pit pass only, and it was amazing. It also reduced crowd surfing. Would this ever be considered?
You know, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword there, right? The one nice thing about Ink is that everybody has the same opportunity to get right to the front.
Yes.
When you start sectioning things off, it looks like a money grab, right? Because we're going to have to charge more. Right. You have to somehow separate the audience there, right? If you're going to be closer, you're going to pay more money. And we got to put barricades up there. We got to put 2 lines of security. So the cost goes up. So it's not something I would love to do. I'll tell you that much.
Sure.
I like I say with everything, I never say never, but I really don't see that ever happening. It wouldn't be my first choice because I do like what people like about Ink is that, you know, if it's their favorite band, they can push their way up there or they can crowd surf their way up there. Yeah, I mean, that would be the one thing.
Yeah.
I know crowd surfing does bother a lot of people who are in the front, obviously, and they don't like people coming over there. And I mean, there's just not much.
I mean,
you
it's
can
a
do
rock
about
show.
it. Yeah,
man.
there's not much you can do about it. It's, you know,
it's what it is. It comes with the territory.
Right.
Yeah.
This one's an Ollie specific question, but you said favorite bands. Jacob Mullins asks, I'd love to know if they've tried booking Ginger. A lot of people have been expecting them to be at Ink the last few years, so I've just been curious.
Oh, yeah, we definitely have tried to book Ginger. We actually, I believe Ginger was confirmed the 1 year.
It was 2 years
Was it
ago?
last year? I think I told you.
Yeah.
I think I remember telling you, like, hey, dude, Ginger's playing. So we did, and then they ended up having a tour come into play that they had to do instead, right? So they weren't able to do it. But it's not, like I said, we've tried every year to get them.
I think they're not. I don't know this, but they're probably not in Ukraine anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I feel like that would complicate
No,
things.
I think there's a good chance. You know, again, another band that we absolutely are going to try to get next year.
Right.
They're one of my personal favorites. I've seen them in concert a couple times. So like I definitely want to get them, and we're gonna try. That's every single year we'll try.
Sure.
So.
Last one from our good friend Rob Myers. How good is he at Call of Duty?
Oh, Rob Myers, yeah, that's funny. Of course I'm excellent at Call of Duty.
Excellent, the best.
Come on.
What is your favorite Call of Duty?
I just play Warzone, so like.
Oh my God!
Wait, what? What's that?
You're blacklisted.
So
What's wrong with Warzone?
all right, so Warzone 1, cheaters everywhere.
Well, I'm not.
I see him on
yeah,
TikTok
I-
live
Philip,
all
you
the
don't
time.
say Modern Warfare 1.
Well, Resurgence.
Or
That's
like
what I do.
2.
Resurgence. Is that all right?
Resurgence is good.
Resurgence. I do some
Yeah,
Call
I
of
do
Duty
like.
zombies.
Personally, I do like Resurgence.
I literally
What am I
just
supposed to
play
do?
multiplayer playlists.
I was gonna say, am I supposed to
do
do like the campaign or something like that?
The campaign is kind of ass this last.
Right.
Ryan's an
last game.
elitist when it comes to this. Don't listen to
No,
him.
I just play.
He's in a fucking video game
I think.
band,
I think.
bro.
I think
so
Warzone.
authority on this.
I think Warzone Resurgence is very difficult.
Yeah.
I think multiplayer is easy. I'm like, it's too easy for me.
Yeah,
So.
that's I guess.
Ryan
But
plays easy
skill-
mode.
It's easy because skill-based matchmaking, and you probably are stinky, so you
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
bad players,
I
right?
do the hardcore version. I used to do hardcore multiplayer, but I got into the Resurgence Warzone type stuff because I always liked the. I don't know. It's just kind of fun to.
How long you been
It's
playing it?
challenging. Probably about a year.
You haven't been playing Call of Duty for like a while.
No, well, I've been playing Call of Duty longer than
Okay,
that. But
so
yeah,
my
Warzone
hot
for
take.
about a year.
My hot take. This is a massively flaming take. My favorite Call of Duty is World War II.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not a flaming take. You know what a flaming? I'm gonna give you a flaming
all
take.
the time.
I'm gonna give you a real flaming
Go
take.
for it.
Call of Duty sucks.
Well, no, because we know you're with your games. You got to have MMORPGs or open
Yeah.
world. That's all you play.
MMO.
You act like you play in a band that is like
I do.
that is geared towards video game names.
Yeah.
Like
You
You know
it's
what's
weird.
funny is this band. His kill streak came from an idea from a drive that Ryan and I had back from Louder Than Life. It was a 4-hour drive. We
It
were
is a
in
great
this
idea.
tiny little. It wasn't an
Shout out Sam for
FRS.
that
It was a
idea,
little
too.
tiny Toyota 86, and we were talking about starting a band. And it was going to be a video game band. That's how Killstreak
Yep.
started.
And the
So-
funny
I
part-
it was just him and I.
It was just me and Ian, and I will forever consider Ian an unofficial member of the band because of that alone. And he
Well, I
does
do
all
media
of our
in the background.
media,
too.
and he's
Yeah.
been in our music videos and all of that. And what's really funny about that, Ian, is because we came up with that concept, but when I was still in Audience of Rain, and I was in the band and doing other things, so I wasn't
Yeah.
focused on starting a new band. When the opportunity came to start a new band, I had met my vocalist, and I had him over to brainstorm what we were going to do.
Mm.
And he sits here, and he right where I'm sitting, and he goes, "So, what if we did a band about video games?" I'm like, "Shut up."
Well, and those who know, to interject, those who know Sam,
Yeah.
know. I mean, he does tattoos and stuff, and like 90% of tattoos he
vocalist.
does are Zelda or
Well, that's his favorite
Pokemon
game.
tattoos. He's
Yeah.
he's very video game oriented too.
Sure.
So it's just
But it was one of those things where, like, I already had the idea in my head. I didn't articulate it, and he came here and was like, "Let's do this." And I'm like, "Here we go. Let's do it." And what I didn't realize until far beyond this journey is that if you look at the revenue from film, from TV, from all areas of entertainment, the gaming industry is the top grossing industry in
Yep.
the entertainment industry.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I'm just like, we tapped in.
Yeah.
Like that you're not going to run out of material because there's a bazillion video games out there.
Well, then
You
even
write a
then you could
fucking
do
Tetris song if
expansions.
you wanted to.
Right.
Right. And so it's accessible. And anybody watching this who's in a band, I'm never going to say I'm an expert at being in a band because that's impossible, right? But I will say I am quasi-expert at marketing bands because that's what I do for my job. And what my best advice would be is there are, and this is not shade, don't take it this way, but there are a million bands, rock bands, metal bands, that wear jeans, black t-shirts, and scream about their feelings. Totally okay, because obviously that sells. There's a lot of bands
and
like
now a
that are
million
really
that
big.
also wear masks.
Sure.
There's a lot of masks.
There's a lot of masks now. You got to find a way to separate yourself, because from a guitarist standpoint, a singer standpoint, a bassist, a drummer, a musician, your first thought is, I'm going to be musically more talented than the next band, and that's how I'm going to make it. No. That's a very small portion of the larger picture. Find a way to differentiate yourself from your peers and become more accessible. And you can become accessible while still being heavy. Some people think, okay, I make screaming music. The average person isn't going to be interested in my material. I cannot tell you how many times I've been sitting there in bed scrolling on TikTok, and if you have TikTok, you know that every 4 or 5 videos you get a live TikTok live, and it's somebody playing Call of Duty or another video game, and I'll chime in from the band account and say, hey, I'm in this band and we make songs about video games. They're usually already listening to music, and I'll say, do you want to listen to one of our songs? They're like, sure, and they're like, I'm not really into metal, but I'll check it out. They check it out, they're like, this is fucking amazing. It's added to my playlist, I'm following you. That kind of stuff, you got to find a way, it doesn't matter what genre you're in, but find a way to get people that don't normally listen to your music to listen to your music, because that is how you grow. That is a big thing that people forget. They try to be the kings of their small group. I'd rather be the emperor of the kings. You know what I mean? So
we should get Dan's opinion on this.
Yeah.
Because you book a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, what was somebody, I mean, I guess a niche thing that somebody could do that...
you don't want to be too niche because you don't want to end up being,
yeah,
you know,
like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough with the festival industry, like, you know, just because there's only a certain amount of spots, and most of our spots are booked through agents.
Right.
You know, my thing is just like it's about who you know. You know what I mean? That also, like, so I think it's taking a little bit of every part, right? It's number one, being a phenomenal band. Number two, what you said, right? Finding a niche, finding something that makes you stand out above the fray, and three, making friends, making contacts in the industry.
Just being like a genuine person.
Being a good person and not a shit human being.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so if all those things come together, you know, they always say
got a shot.
Success is when preparation meets opportunity. So if you're prepared,
I like that.
And when the opportunity presents itself, if you jump on that, then 9 times out of 10 you'll have some sort of success, depending on what that success means to you.
Part of that preparation is investment, and part of that preparation is just being savvy at knowing what other people will perceive of you. I had a person that I don't know very well, but they we'll bring this up because it was a little controversial on Facebook. They made a post last week. They run Cleveland Mosh. That's like a local-ish sort of festival. It was at the Agora.
Yeah,
now
I
it's
think
at
I've heard of it,
Ballroom.
yeah.
But they book national acts to headline this thing. It's every winter. And they said, so, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, bands, especially local bands, quantity is not over quantity in regards to booking shows. Because once you start booking 1 million shows locally, you're going to get pigeonholed as that local band. But promoters are going to know you as the band that sells tickets, or the band that, you know, we don't need to give them a guarantee. We don't need to treat them very well because they're oversaturating themselves within their own market. And fans, even the casual fans, will see XXX band playing the same local venues over and over and go, okay, this is a band. They're my friends, but I probably will never see them grow to be a headliner because they're constantly stuck in the same loophole over and over, and I'm going to treat them as seriously as they are. So and it was nice of this person. Again, I do not know this person, but they said a great example of this is Killstreak. They're making their live debut at Inkcarceration, blah, blah. That is completely intentional, folks. I have said this to my bandmates.
You've talked to me about this multiple times. Yeah,
you have to treat your band as seriously as you want other people to treat your band. So if you are pigeonholing yourself as local, or if you're taking all the bookings in the world, if you are not demanding, in a nice way, obviously, you don't want to be a dick to promoters, but if you're not, demanding guarantees or doing things that you feel you would deserve if so, then you are going to be treated that way. If you set the bar high, which we might have set the bar a little too high, being our live debut at Inkcarceration, promoters, not just in your own market, but other markets are going to look at your resume, going to look at your streams, your monthly list, all these things that are so important for the industry's perception of you, because the industry's perception of you is a lot different than fans' perception of you. And they will look at your branding and say, okay, this band is deserving of my serious, candor and, attention, and they will treat you as such. And that's how you gain leverage in the industry. But that was a very controversial topic, because then you have a lot of bands saying, well, we really like to perform out live. We like to do it frequently. We like to, and that's totally okay.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is okay.
Yeah.
You have
I
to
think it's
where you want to go.
I think it's also finding a balance. I think, as like an unsigned local artist, if you play too much, It's obviously you're just gonna oversaturate. It's like you don't just play shows to play them. Play shows with a purpose, right?
Yes.
I think because you do get there are opportunities that arise from playing shows. I mean, I'm thinking back to 2022 or I can't remember what year it was. One of the bands we had on the show, Bittersweet Revenge.
Okay.
They were recommended to me by my friend who owns the Agora.
Oh.
And he was like,
Mike?
"Hey, Chris
Chris.
Zitterbart."
Oh, Chris Zitterbart.
Friend
He's
of the
been on
podcast.
this podcast.
Oh, Chris, that's great.
Yeah.
So Chris, he had hit me up and he's like, "Hey, this band, they do really well for us at the Agora. Would you be interested? I just wanted to tell you about them."
Sure.
So like that came through them playing shows. So
Right.
I think there are opportunities that come, at least from my standpoint of booking Inkcarceration, club owners will call me. I have friends in the industry, especially locally, because I always want to help local artists in this area.
Right. I'm not misconstruing by saying that
yeah.
every band's first show has to be a festival.
Yeah, no.
Don't take it that
that's
way.
that's a rare thing,
Right.
obviously. But I think a lot of times it's just being smart about what you're doing and it's not taking every show that's handed to you. Every club you can. You know what I mean?
In an example you said earlier was about making connections, and right there you just said it. Chris Zitterbart is a great connection
Yeah.
for those who know him. And through that connection, this band was able to contact you and then get this booking. I mean, that
Chris,
is
Chris
exactly
was
what
like,
you
hey,
said.
this band does really well for the Agora, and I think that you should give him an opportunity at Ink. And Chris is someone who I obviously, trust his input. And I, went and listened to the band, like checked him out. So I called him up, said, "Hey, you guys want to do Ink?" You know what I mean? So it's really, like I said, a lot of it is about who you know and all that stuff, and that helps a lot. So it's a mixture of every.
How would you get to know who you know?
That's
a good question.
I was going to
I was
that
gonna say.
question.
I mean, you sometimes you just gotta. It's as simple as just
Being at the right place, right time, buying the
asking.
right people
like
drinks.
so many
maybe?
people just don't put themselves in the right
but
place.
it's
You know what I mean?
also
Yeah.
this is something that I'm super fickle on, and it's probably a fault of my own. But it's also how you ask.
Yeah.
You have to be meticulous with your promotion. Being somebody who's on the other side of it as a music manager, I get hit up in my inbox every day with just link spamming. Check out my music.
Yeah, that's
Check out.
the worst.
That does not work, people.
That's the worst.
I will say, and I'm sure you probably agree with that.
I mean, look, I
Or not.
listen to what I don't get sent a ton of stuff to be honest.
Right.
Which is kind of funny because you
Until
think I would
now.
get sent
You-
a
you
lot.
think
Yeah,
you
until
would.
now, right?
I'm
Oh my
surprised you
gosh,
said that.
yeah. No, I mean I don't get sent a whole lot. If they send it to my Facebook, I usually make sure they send it to my email because at the end of the day, the talent buying for Inkcarceration is done by committee, and it's there's more people than just me that can weigh in. Like if
Correct,
somebody calls
yeah.
me, I get to say, "Oh, you're booked for Ink." Like I have to go. Talk to
Like there's a
DWP.
vote
Like,
that
I-
happens
like I
or
actually have
something,
partners at DWP that have to weigh
You
in
actually
as well.
have
So-
to spill
I
your
have to- yeah,
blood
so-
into a potion, and then you have to say like 10 Latin chants.
right in the middle of the woods,
Middle
over
of the
a
woods.
fire.
Yep.
And
Do it, folks.
pig's blood. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
that's what you gotta do.
Not
So-
kosher.
Not kosher, right? So yeah. I mean, it's a process, but I mean, I try to listen to everything, and I'll even try to give feedback when I can, because obviously, I like the unsigned artists. I just
Yeah,
do.
sure.
And I think
Absolutely.
it's something that's neat. And if there's a chance,
Also,
or an
less red
opportunity-
tape, which is fun.
Yeah, if there's an opportunity to give someone a chance to play at Ink, then I absolutely will. But it's hard because those opportunities are so few and far
They
between that
I guess my
can't
thesis
do
was
much about
make a good first impression.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again,
never-
everybody's different.
And make the contacts. I mean, I think
Right.
when you meet people or when you're playing, let's say you play the Agora, take time to be nice to the staff, be nice to
Thank
the
you.
owners,
Yes.
Bartenders.
bartenders, all that stuff like that. Get a good rep, and when you're go to networking events. I mean,
Something
they
I
have them
preach
all
with
over the
my
place.
something I preach with my artists. So we design them business cards, QR codes, the whole thing, and they say, okay, so I just go to a show and I pass these out to people. I say, no, because what you do, you can do that. Are you going to get any retention from that? Unlikely. How many times I've been at a show where somebody hands me either a demo or a business card, they don't make conversation, they just are like, here you go, and I put it in my back pocket, throw it away when I get home. You have to, and it's a lot of work, and people are afraid of work sometimes, but you got to make conversation. You got to learn about the person you're talking to. And then after showing that you are invested in what they have to say, now you have the comfort level to say, by the way, it was great to meet you. I just want to let you know real quick, I'm in a band. Here's a QR code. You just scan it and go to Spotify. You want to listen to it. They're going to go home and be like, man, I had a good night. That guy I met, he was a really nice guy. You know what? I'm gonna go check that out. Rather than you were just a flash in the pan of the evening.
Well, see, I
you.
disagree with the first half of that.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why.
This makes for a good podcast.
I think
we all agree there's nothing to talk about.
Well, yeah, that's true. And Ryan and I, we have a beautiful history of disagreeing
5
to
hour
agree
car
sometimes.
rides about analog versus
what
digital.
else do we got to talk about? There's a reason why we've been doing this for so long. But if you go in there with the mindset of, hey, I got these business cards or whatever I want to hand out, and that's why I'm going to be talking to people. That's the wrong mindset. And then you also said, it takes a lot of work. You need to not view it as work.
Yeah, of course.
You need to just be there, enjoy the moment, have a couple drinks, meet some new people, and if you have
Whenever
an
I have a couple of drinks,
to
I end
be
up giving out free tickets to people.
Lineup leaks and all that
lineup
stuff.
leaks, free tickets, all that. I got
You're hanging out with the wrong. You need to hang out with us. You just have a couple drinks and relax.
He needs his phone put in a plastic bag when he's drinking.
Take your phone at the fucking door.
yeah. I need someone to say like, "Hey, Dan, like, don't talk to those people and give them free tickets tonight."
Yeah, just you go in to a bar at a show or whatever, hang out with people, and if the opportunity arises and you guys start talking about music, say, "Hey, here's my band." 100%. That person will check your music out.
All right,
and then they'll probably follow you for a long time. That's how you build a following. It takes a lot longer, but it's a lot more genuine because you're there for a genuine reason.
Yes.
You're not there to have a conversation with somebody with the end thought of, well, I'm going to hand them a business card.
So I'm going to nuance
what I'm
this
saying?
then. I agree. I think we're going to end up agreeing because in the case of the bar or the local club show.
Wherever has a bar.
You're correct. 100%. I think what my ideology is more of music conventions. So if I'm at NAMM with a purpose. I'm here to network.
But that's different.
Right.
That's a different setting.
Right. So that's. I think we can both agree that
because that's a professional
setting. Different approaches.
Well, yeah, you go there expecting to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's a professional setting. Everybody there, is a musician. Otherwise, you're not going to fucking be there. You're not going to drag your wife to this or something, or somebody's not going to go there unless they are in the business. You're not going to pay a couple $1,000s to go to NAMM unless, or whatever. Yeah. But, generally speaking,
or
for 99.99% of cases, go there, enjoy the show. Don't be afraid to talk to new people. And what's interesting is, from DJing for so long and I've been doing music since being in bands since I was 14, you know what I mean? Playing all over and doing shit. And what's interesting is most of the time the owner will even be behind the bar. You strike a conversation with the bartender, come to find out it's the fucking owner. And then they'll be like, well, hey, do you want to play here?
Right.
I can't tell you how many gigs I've gotten just from doing that. And I'm not looking to even get a gig. I'm not even looking to do anything.
Because my original point, just don't be pushy.
So a great example, Inkcarceration. What was that band? They were from Berkeley.
Yes.
It was something
2 years
Among
ago.
the Stars.
They got moved to Maine.
So
I don't know if you recall them. Yeah, but they were next to each other.
So what was interesting about that was, first of all, as a self-taught musician, I was not that excited to hear a band from Berkeley. I'm just saying it. I'm just being honest. But man, when
we actually have a Berkeley band every year.
So
it's like a thing.
There you go. I was never rich enough to go to Berkeley, But
I got accepted, but I didn't pay for the.
I found out about this 2 years in. I didn't know about it either.
Really?
I'm like, oh, it's a Berkeley band.
So what was interesting, and this is such a great example. What was interesting about this was the band was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It was fucking. I mean, they were great. And the female lead singer, I can't remember her name, but they were just phenomenal.
Business cards around here somewhere. She gave me one after, and I actually kept it.
So that's what the interesting thing is we had a conversation with them backstage, and we were just like, hey, you guys are great. And we ended up talking to them for a hot minute. But at the end of and they never once pressed their music or nothing on us, even though we just listened to them. They had a perfect opportunity to do so because we literally
could have
just
went right off stage and be like, hey, go check us out on streaming.
Immediately they could have done this.
Right.
But they were like, I was like, hey, I really like your guys' stuff. Do you know, and then I had a conversation with them. And I'm like, hey, I really actually enjoyed my conversation with you guys. Do you guys have somewhere I can check your music out? And they're like, oh, yeah, here you go. Here's a business card. That is what I'm talking about, because they could have immediately went off that stage, went in the crowd, started handing shit out, and
people
pushing
want authenticity.
The pedal. See, I'm just taking it all in.
Please do.
Yeah, sure. I want you to weigh in.
I think I might disagree, and the reason why is, I think that bands that go out there after their set and hustle,
Yeah.
like they see better. They see more out of it.
Yeah.
I'll never forget being at a concert, gosh, years ago, like 2008, 9, somewhere around there, and the band Rev Theory was playing, and they
forgot about them till
remember
like
those
right
guys?
now.
Yeah. So they were playing the show.
It's good air show music. That's what I call air show music.
They got done, but at the time though, they sold a lot of music without. But like at shows,
Yeah,
like they sold it at their shows.
Yeah.
I remember talking to the singer. So after the show, he's out in the crowd and he has a box of CDs and he's like,
Yeah.
"Did you see my band play? Did you like the set? Here, buy a CD." And he was out there selling CDs in the crowd himself instead of waiting in the back for people to come over and see him. And I think I had heard he sold, like, you gave me the number, I couldn't remember, but I was talking to him a little bit about that. Like, is that working? And he's like, yeah, I sold a ton of CDs. And people remember that. They remember talking to the band.
That's financially driven, though.
I think that. Well, it's also promoting the act.
Sure.
So I think that, like, I think a lot of times, if the band just like, you know, if you're not like one of the bigger bands and you're trying to get your name out there, I think going out into the crowd and promoting the band after your set, I think that's a good thing. Or you know what I mean?
Well, I want to add to this because I don't know if Ryan was in a band in 2009, but I was.
I was too, but
what's
it was
funny
not nearly
was
successful.
well, I was doing those tactics because we were playing on tours with bigger bands like Fallujah or however the hell you say their name. I played with
That's
them
right.
and stuff. And you know, after the show, we would do that in 2009 era with shit. I would even go to the mall and try to hand out.
Not that
stuff.
anybody has CDs anymore, by the way. So
Well,
like that's,
right.
that's what I'm
But-
saying. But
so-
I'm saying just like you were saying, a
Yeah.
car with a QR
Yeah,
code, something
exactly.
like that.
So to build upon this, right, is I think in that era, because that's over 10 years ago.
Correct.
That era, it was a lot more acceptable because there wasn't as much music in the industry, wasn't as oversaturated with people trying to peddle things upon other
Yes.
people as it is now. I think now it might be a little bit different and we didn't have social media then either, so people now are looking for more of a genuine connection.
Yes.
And whereas maybe in 2009 that wasn't the case.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I definitely could not get away with selling CDs and doing shit like that now after I play a DJ set or play
No.
somewhere.
I mean,
but
just because, like I said,
then-
nobody buys CDs, but like if you have a
well, I
QR
mean, even
code,
a flash
you know,
drive
yeah.
or a QR
something like
code,
that.
I don't think
To
you could get
piggyback-
away with it as
Yeah.
well now as. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe we should
So
do
how
a
does that-
scientific experiment sometime.
This is definitely
Yeah, social
maybe
experiment.
we should get the team from Berkeley to do a study on it.
That would be
Ooh.
actually kind of
I mean,
cool.
It's Berkeley College. Have them do a study on this thing.
That would
you know,
actually be kind of cool.
Because I'd be interested myself. Like, I mean, granted, I run a festival. I don't run a record label. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So I
No,
don't know.
right.
But it's like, you know, from my perspective, my thought is like, you know, as we're talking about this, this is like getting onto a whole other tangent, right, of things. Well, good for a whole other podcast, right? But because I know this is off the ink subject, but it's like, you know, I think there is definitely like we're all talking about things that literally, if you break it down, you write books about it. You could write like there's such a. Is there a perfect science to becoming like the next?
No,
big
but I
band,
think
you know?
there's a formula. I think the formula has nuances, but I don't. I can only speak on what I've seen become successful, and
Right.
there is a narrative of if you act or do these things, your likelihood of being successful is unlikely.
Yeah.
What I have seen, and I won't even speak for the artist I manage. I'll just speak for my band. If you have the demeanor, if we, I suppose, have the demeanor of treating ourselves like we're bigger than we are, not that we've done quite a lot already in just 2 years, but if we treat ourselves like we're as big as the biggest band in our genre,
Nirvana.
yeah, no, then people treat us that way in return. That's what I've seen a lot of. So while some bands might like to be really into the heavy promotion, and it works, it clearly works metrically. I've also seen it work from the other way. I've seen it work from this way.
I have
because
too. I've seen
people-
bands get record deals that never played a show before.
right, but
You know
it's
what I
not
mean?
even. It's not even not
Literally, like
it's-
I know of one in Ohio.
Kill streak.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Shut up. It's again comes down for me is people take your band as serious as you take your band. And people love mystery. Look at Sleep Token for that. But people love when they see a band, whether it's acting a certain way on social media, doing things that other bands much larger than them are doing, or acting that way in person. I'm going to shout out my old vocalist, Cody Griffin from Audience of Rain. When we used to play shows, he would always say, we need to act like rock stars. Not like get drunk and get, be dumb, but you need to have a presence in that room, that you're not just some local guy that's here to, I'm just so thankful I'm here. You are, but have that demeanor of like, yes, we're going to act like Tom Barber from Chelsea Grin as well, because he's been here, done it, and they have millions and millions of plays. Let's act the same way. I'm not saying behavior-wise, but just overall.
Right.
And people will treat us the same way.
Yeah.
That I have seen that work really well. It doesn't work for everybody. So that's a complete 180 from the other side of the tactic, which is going in and giving QR codes and things of that nature.
Right.
So I guess it just depends on your style.
Well, like you said, that I'm so thankful thing. As someone who's seen a bazillion and one shows from literally every genre under the planet every year, when the artist says, I'm so thankful to be here, every single artist says that. It's like, how many times can you hear that specific phrase?
It's like an award show.
It's like, how thankful are you really? Like, because literally every artist, I mean, is every artist really that thankful to be here in, Ohio? Like, I don't know. But
and it goes into my marketing tactic. It's like, it's not that I'm ashamed of being from Ohio or from Cleveland or from
we
Akron
love
or
Ohio,
what have.
man.
I
love
very
Ohio.
much do. But I'm not going to wear that on my sleeve as a band, because that's another way to turn into a band that's only known for being from here. Look at 9 Inch Nails. How many people know Trent Reznor's from this area? Not
a lot of people, but we also live here.
Everybody from Ohio.
But we live here, right?
Nationally, it's not well known, because he or Marilyn Manson or anybody that's from this area that got big, or Filter even, they didn't say, we're a Cleveland, Ohio metal band. Yeah. They said, we're a metal band. Or what have you.
Devo's
and then
a great
when you get big enough,
that.
then you can come back and embrace the city.
the roots.
Yeah. So that's my personal
Devo
philosophy.
got kicked out of Ohio.
Who did?
Devo.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't know that? They in Akron, which is where they're from, they
Right.
got thrown tomatoes and stuff on the stage. They went to California, blew up, and then they didn't come to Ohio for
Well, that's a whole other
years and years.
So I don't. That's
But,
my
I mean,
personal
I don't know.
philosophy.
Random fact.
I can be a stickler on those things. My bandmates can attest to it. But what I've seen work, I'm not saying don't be original, don't be unique, and don't be authentic. But if you kind of follow the lead of people who have already been successful, it's like sports, right? If you're developing a sports team in any sport, you're going to look at the teams that just won the Super Bowl. How do their teams look? What kind of players do they have?
Right.
What kind of plays do they run? It's kind of similar with a band,
Yeah, makes sense.
My thoughts.
So incarceration.
I know. I feel like we need to make that that last 30 minutes like it's just a separate.
Well, that's why I
Like,
think
you know
that's
what I
why
mean?
people listen to
do
podcasts.
too.
Though I mean, they want to know like who puts on these shows. I mean, we could talk about logistical shit all day.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we do with bands. I mean, anybody could be like, oh, well, what's your next tour stop? Oh, da-da-da-da-da.
Right, canned questions.
People don't
Yeah,
give a
yeah.
shit about that, man. They want to hear about.
No, I want to know what you think of the Max Strus last-minute shot last night. That's what I want to know.
That's pretty wild.
Insane.
I mean, like everybody knows how much of a Cavs fan I am.
yes, that's why I asked you.
Yeah,
Do you know the second longest
I got
game-winning
like-
shot in NBA history?
yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
I got like 3 emails this morning. Were you at the game last night? I'm like, nope, I wasn't at the game. So,
Do you try to storm the court if you were?
oh yeah, I'd have out there, jumped on his back, and rode him around for a little bit, But yeah, no, that was wild stuff.
I also learned yesterday, because was it Luka Doncic?
Yeah.
He was there. It was the Mavericks. People are now tuning out because I've learned something. Musicians hate sports, but I did learn, because they said like there was this massive contingent of people there just to see him. I'm like, why? There's like Cleveland is there to see him way more than any other city, because Cleveland has the largest population of Slovenian immigrants outside of Slovenia. I did not know that until yesterday.
Fun fact.
There you go.
We also have a
I
ton
did
of
see a lot of.
Nepali
I did
people.
see a lot of his jerseys out there
Yeah,
during the
it's
game.
wild to me. I'm like, why Cleveland? Because it's the same. There's the
Yeah.
Somalian and Minneapolis, I want to say, and there's like it's always random like that. So,
We have a lot of
curious.
diversity here. Well, like in Akron, there's a lot of Nepali people. for those who don't know, in North Hills, pretty much all Nepali
Yes.
people. And then in Youngstown, where I'm from, or where I live, that's not where I'm from, but they have a lot of Greek and Italian people, man. This is like a bunch of Greek, and they speak fluent Greek.
Parma,
Like
Polish.
that's their first language.
That's a big one.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
The demographics.
I'm like talking just about the mic up. Like, interesting. Yeah.
Interesting. Facts. Random facts.
Man.
And all
Yeah,
things
that's
music
great.
podcasts that you never wanted to know.
Right.
So, to end it off, just want to know, is there anything new, non-band-wise, because we talked about talent this whole time.
Yeah.
Is there anything new in 2024 we can expect on the grounds, from the food, from the stage? We already talked about the third stage a little bit. Layout, anything that kind of new or that you can talk about?
Nothing new that we haven't already announced.
Okay.
I think when you're putting a festival on like this, like you hit a good stride with the setup. We don't want to mess with it too much, just to mess with it, right? And I think last year the way Ink was set up around the grounds and the way it looked, the way it was set up was very well. I mean, obviously every year we're doing improvements to the ground. We're doing different stuff inside OSR. There actually is one big thing. We did add the tattoo section. We did double it this year.
Double,
yes.
Actually, I noticed
That's
that.
good.
Yeah, so we
it's a big
created
thing.
a whole other section for it and added in a lot more tattoo artists because, essentially the lines have gotten so long to get in there, you can't get a tattoo. So
I still have never gotten a tattoo there.
it's really
which
hard
is
to get
crazy.
an appointment.
It is.
So we went from like 60 some artists to like 110 or something like
Holy
that.
shit.
So there's definitely a lot more artists now, which is great. And so that took some logistical stuff. We're still working through the pathways and whatever else because it's going to be the section will be behind OSR. We're building an extension onto the actual prison. So
temporarily,
okay. Yeah. So that'll be cool. That should be nice and helpful. And then obviously making stage 2 big or stage 3 bigger. Other than that, we feel like we got a pretty good handle on our logistics over there, and
I think so.
The more years in a row that you've got the same logistics,
it's not broken. Don't fix
people
it.
exactly. If people feel more comfortable, they know where things are at. They, if you change stuff up every year, they get, we have a lot of returning ink mates, and we want to make sure that they feel like this is their second home during the summer. So, I think I'm really happy with the amount of returning like fan base we have every year. You know what I mean? It's getting to a point now where, we really have true like
that core group.
Like a core group of people that just love the event, and we're gonna keep.
I see it all the time. People commenting like, "I don't give a shit what the lineup could be.
Right.
It could be fucking
They just
J-pop
like to
and
be
K-pop,
there.
and I'll be there because it's incarceration."
We see a lot of the same consistent people.
They
there
say that
every
the
year,
minute we ever go, what I mean?
yeah.
We'll keep delivering.
Put
lineups,
one hip hop artist on the bill and see what happens.
See what happens. No,
Right.
we
all hell will break loose.
and to clear up, we are a rock and metal festival.
Yeah.
We are not just a metal festival. We're not just a rock festival. We are a rock and metal festival.
I don't think it would be out of bounds to say it's a little bit more heavier than the other festivals. Not a ton, but there's a little more of a heavy flavor.
I don't even like to compare to the other fests just because everything's
Size.
such a different animal. You know what I mean? And their ink really does stand on its own as an independent, small, like, I don't want to say small, but it's definitely not small, but like a nice boutique event that is a good bridge for the summer. I mean, there's nothing else going on in the summer.
And I relate it. I honestly relate it. I look back at all the tours, the Warped tours, all that.
Yeah.
I relate Ink very much to Mayhem Festival because if we recall,
there's a lot of similarities. Yep.
You had a very heavy undercard. A lot of these bands like Whitechapel, God forbid, Job for a Cowboy, they were all just as small as 1056, Brand of Sacrifice, etc. are now. And we're not saying small; they're small, but relatively.
Yeah.
And then you had your big players like Manson, Zombie, Avenged Sevenfold. You had these big, almost arena-style headliners.
Yeah.
That's Ink right now. That's
Right.
essentially what this is. So
It's pretty baller.
if
3 days of
we're-
it. Yeah.
yeah.
3 days of it.
3
which is
days
great.
of Mayhem Festival. So I guess that would be my comparison, my comp.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
yeah.
I think. Yeah,
So.
definitely.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
We'll do this again in 3 more years. But no, it's been a good time. Love Ink. If you are in I would say the tri-state area, but in the Midwest at all, I highly recommend going to Ink. Obviously, Louder Than Life is great. Obviously, Sonic Temple is fantastic. There's plenty of. It's a great time to be a rock and metal fan because even though there's no more Warped Tour and there's no more touring festivals, no more Ozfest, that's another good comp. There is still these festivals that scratch that itch, and in my very biased opinion, Inkcarceration is the best of the bunch. So if you haven't got tickets already, go get tickets.
Get your tickets.
Get your tickets.
Get your tots.
Camping is sold out.
Get your
VIP is almost sold out. General admission's gonna sell out.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yep.
So
nothing beats that ink backdrop.
Nothing beats it.
There's nothing in the world like it. 100%.
And then do you really want to have FOMO looking at your Instagram reels, seeing everybody at Ink? No, you don't. So go get your tickets.
Get the tickets now. I think the show is about 75% sold out. So we are
pretty close.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And
Absolutely.
Until next time.
All right.